Starting your first business is extremely challenging, or starting any business is particularly very challenging. Statistically speaking, especially inside of your first year, 50% of the businesses started will fail, and that is inside of 12 months. And 90% of businesses will fail inside of 10 years. Now, why is this? It's ultimately because people aren't prepared for the level of work that it takes. And I'm going to try and share this in this video by explaining what my first year was like. So anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Zach Harrison. We're an Airbnb business, Airbnb management company. We also do training around Airbnb properties. I've been doing this for 4 years now, managing over 40 properties in the UK in probably around 10 or 11 different cities. And I wanted to share to people in this video what my first year was like. So I started in 2020. I took on my first property in February of that year. It was a nice little duplex flat in Nottingham. Very good rents at the time. I got this property by purely going in and travelling to Nottingham, knocking on the doors of various letting agents. I had some people sort of throw me out, lock the doors on me at certain letting agents, not liking the fact that someone's just come into their agency and not rang them up or inquired on Rightmove. But I went into a place called Frank Innes in Nottingham city centre, and they showed me this duplex flat in Nottingham, just in the Park district. The landlord wanted a decent amount of rent. It'd been on for a while, and they were, I think, struggling to shift it a bit. I said that I would view this property, and ultimately led to me taking it on. It took me about 3 weeks to set the property up, purely because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really understand, sort of the best places to go, where do I get my furniture from, how to decorate the place nice, finding photographers, all sorts of stuff that I know now. I didn't really know what I was doing then. So it took me about 3 weeks to set the property up. During this whole time, word of a pandemic was coming around. We had COVID coming around in China, and I honestly thought to myself, if it happens, it happens, but I can't imagine what would end up happened, which I thought I think a lot of people would be quite similar. So I didn't think this would really happen. I thought, I'm in it now. I've signed a 2-year contract, so I might as well just crack on with it. After about the first week of going live, so probably a month later after I set the property up, we go into lockdown. So the worst thing that could possibly happen to someone in their first year starting a business in hospitality is for it to literally be illegal for somebody to stay at my property. And so I ended up sitting there thinking, how am I supposed to find £1,150 in total bills in order to cover for this property after I'd already quit my job and started this business? So I was left in a very, very stressful situation. I've gone from thinking I could charge £100, £110, £120 per night to literally taking any booking because it was illegal for someone to stay inside of my property. So this was extremely stressful. And what ended up ultimately happening was I thought, right, I need to take a job working anywhere that I can. So I ended up working at a place called UPS in Tamworth, which isn't that far away from where I lived. And I used to work on the business during the day to try and cover the costs for that property as well. And this was an extremely stressful time. I did this for probably the first 3.5 months. At the same time, I was trying to do anything I can to try and get things to get some money in the door, really, I would say. So something I did end up doing was I found a supplier in China that would sell these sort of like counterfeit AirPods. I ended up selling quite a lot of them through like Facebook Marketplace, anything I could to try and get some money in the door to try and cover the costs of this Airbnb property. Obviously, after about 3.5 months, we came out of lockdown and it absolutely exploded. So everyone wanted to stay. But what ultimately happened was people still weren't allowed to go out. So everyone that was staying was having parties at the property. Every single weekend, I would have phone calls from landlords and from all the neighbours saying, once again, they've had a sleepless night because someone has had a great big rave up inside of my property. I did everything I could to try and cover this. I got sensors fitted, which then party goers ended up getting a bit wise with this and turning my sensor off. And that ultimately led to various amounts of issues. I had to pick up keys from the police station inside of that year due to the police being called so many times to get party goers out, and then keeping the keys so that they wouldn't happen again. And I'd have to go and pick them up from the station, which was quite embarrassing inside of Nottingham. We then ultimately fast forward over that and we go into another lockdown again. So I ended up having the same problem. The problem with the parties went away. Only this time it was slightly different. So I had one person inquire to me, said they were wanting to take a booking for 2 months, which sounds absolutely fantastic. A rate where I could make probably around £500 a month from it. I went back to working UPS as well during this time. And she said she'd be able to take this place on. But what she does is she works with women specifically that have just come out of prison and need somewhere staying for the first 2 months. And this is all funded for by the government, not going to cause any issues. I wouldn't normally have taken on a guest like this. It feels like too much risk. But ultimately, after the probably first 6 months that I'd had, I was about ready to throw the towel in. I was really quite stressed. I was not. I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get this business to work. I'd gone from a job where I was making good money to now doing this, where it's 10 times more work for losing money every single month. So I'd take anything. So I accepted. I met the person that was staying, and everything seemed to be going fine. And then after about 4 days, I had a phone call saying that she's disappeared and completely trashed the properties, which I was obviously not very happy about, to say the least. But I just thought, right, we've got to work through it, got to persist with it. The woman was prepared to pay for all the damages. So I'd since found out that this woman who had stayed at the property had a bit of a background, shall we say, in dealing with various adult acts for a paid fee. And she also had somebody that was responsible for protecting her and making sure that things were all okay. He had then found out that she had come out of prison, found out where that she had lived, and taken her back and taken her away, back to whatever dealings she was dealing with before she went to prison, which obviously ended up being quite costly for me. But luckily, everything got paid out and everything worked fine in the end. I'd gone back to UPS at the time, and I went back to working night shifts again. After I went on for probably about another 3-4 months when we came out of the second lockdown, then things started to go a little bit better. But by this point, it'd obviously been the end of the year, so my first sort of review of the contract had been coming up, and I'd made a grand total of £173 of profit in that year. So after all of those stresses and all of those issues and working nights and trying to do what I can to pay for the property, that was how much I was left with. And I was left with two choices. Do I renew the contract and continue down this route, or do I pull out? And do I just walk away from this business model altogether? And ultimately, I chose to stay. Now, why did I choose to stay? It's because I knew if I looked at my business without an emotional head-on, and I just went, what are the issues within my business? The issues are COVID. If COVID wasn't here, would things go better? Absolutely. And that's something that I knew, was that COVID won't last. It can't last, because if it continued to last for too long, there won't be much of an economy left to go back to, because everyone would have failed. So I just needed to make sure that I outlived everyone else, which was the easiest for me to do because I'd just started. And I wasn't prepared to give up. So a big message I want for people that have maybe just started this business or are looking to start their business for the first time is you have to not be prepared to give up under any set of circumstances. You know, I just gave you an image of my first year. I personally don't know anyone in my business model that has had a first year that was as bad as that. And I'm still here now. Why am I still here now? Because I was not prepared to give up, ever. And I see a lot of people when they're just starting their business and they start thinking to themselves, in 3 months, if I'm not doing X, Y, Z, I'm quitting. And you have to understand that this is going to take years. It is going to take decades. It may even take your whole life. But you have to be not prepared to give up, ever. If you are thinking in your head with that sort of mindset where I will not give up under any set of circumstances, you will get to where you want to be. But if you don't have that sort of mentality, if you go 3 months, 6 months, it's been a year, it's not working, I give up, then you will never get to where you're trying to be, because things that are hard to do are often worth fighting for. I just wanted to give people an idea of what my first year was like in starting a business, and to understand for people out there that it's not easy. You know, it's very, very hard to build a business, but oftentimes it is worth it. You know, it really is. You just have to make sure that you stick with it. Like I said, I don't know anyone that's had a worse year than me, making £179 in their first 12 months, and then going from that to where we are now, where we're doing multiple seven figures in revenue with properties all over the country. If I never had have, if I'd have given up after those first 12 months, I wouldn't be where I am today. Now, that was all because I just was not prepared to give up. And I really encourage that everyone that's watching this video to do exactly the same. So if you're feeling like, so I hope everyone finds this useful. Anyone that wants to join, we've got a free group for everyone who wants to learn about Airbnb. It's free to join. And then anyone also, I've got a free academy at the bottom so people can take advantage of that and start your Airbnb journey.